My name is Eliza Bennett. I'm 38 years old, and what ended my relationship wasn't a fight. It was a request that sounded like love, until it didn't. Up until a few weeks ago, I was living with my boyfriend, Ryan Cole. He was 35, confident, persuasive, the kind of man who could make anything sound reasonable if you didn't stop to question it too closely. We had been together for nearly 8 years, living together for 5. From the outside, it looked stable, normal, but looking back now, there were small fractures I had chosen to ignore. The house we lived in wasn't something we built together. I bought it 2 years before we even met, a quiet brick place tucked into a calm street. Nothing extravagant, just solid, predictable, safe. That mattered to me, because my father had helped me buy it. Not all of it, just enough. $20,000 that turned something impossible into something real. I still remember the day I got the keys. He stood in the kitchen, ran his hand along the counter, and said, "Keep one thing in your life that no one can take from you." I didn't understand how important that sentence would become. Until now. Ryan knew all of this. He always had. We had a joint account for everyday life. Groceries, bills, subscriptions. But the house? The mortgage came out of my account. The deed stayed in my name. It had never been a problem. Until my father died. 4 months ago. It was fast. Ugly. The kind of loss that makes the world feel slightly unreal. Like you're walking through conversations instead of actually having them. After everything was settled, I inherited $42,500. Not life-changing money, but enough to matter. Enough for someone else to start imagining ways to use it. At first, Ryan was gentle about it. We could finally redo the kitchen, he said one night, leaning against the counter like it was a shared dream. Or maybe turn the downstairs into something nicer, a guest suite, something that feels more like us. He even suggested paying off his remaining credit card debt, $6,800. "Just so we can start fresh together," he said. I said no, not harshly, not emotionally. Just no. I needed time, space, clarity. I didn't want to touch that money yet, not when everything still felt raw. That should have been the end of it. It wasn't. Because about 2 weeks later, his younger sister, Lily, lost her job. Again. Lily was 31 and permanently between opportunities. In the time I'd known her, she had cycled through jobs like seasons, sales, management, coaching, something vague with crypto that ended with her sleeping on her mother's couch for half a year. Her mother, Diane, was always one phone call away from deciding someone had wronged her daughter. Usually, me. The first time Ryan brought it up, it sounded casual. We were eating takeout on the couch when he said, "Just for a month, Eliza. She can stay downstairs until she gets back on her feet." I looked at him. No. He smiled like I was joking. "Why not?" "Because I don't want your sister living in my house." "Our house," he corrected gently. I let that slide. One correction wasn't worth a fight. But then he asked again. 2 nights later. Then again, Sunday morning over coffee. Every version sounded the same. Family helps family. We have the space. "You'd do it for your sister." I kept saying no. He kept hearing, "Not yet." The actual shift happened on a Thursday night. Nothing dramatic. No raised voices. No slammed doors. Just salmon in the oven and a glass of wine in his hand. He leaned against the counter and said almost casually, "Lily found a contractor who can add a private entrance downstairs, around 9,400. I turned from the sink. "What are you talking about?" He shrugged slightly, like we were discussing furniture. "If we do that, she can stay there properly. Even pay a little rent once she's working again. It makes sense." I stared at him. "Ryan, I already told you no." He exhaled, slow, controlled. "You keep saying no, like I'm asking permission." "I'm not," I said quietly. "You are." Something in his expression shifted then. Not anger. Something colder. He set his glass down carefully. "If we're really serious, Eliza, put me on the house deed." Just like that. Like the sentence had been waiting. I didn't answer immediately, and he took that silence as movement. "Because this half-in, half-out thing is getting old," he continued. "You want me to act like your partner, but when it matters, suddenly it's your house, your money, your decision." I felt something inside me. Go still. "That's not a partnership," he said. "What's yours should be ours." There it was. Not Lily. Not family. Ownership. I dried my hands slowly, turned to face him, and nodded. "Okay," I said. The way his face softened. That was the part I remember most. Relief, satisfaction, victory. He stepped closer, kissed my cheek. "I knew you'd come around," he murmured. I didn't argue. Didn't explain. Didn't remind him whose money had built the foundation he was now trying to claim. I just finished dinner in silence. While he talked. About renovations. refinancing. About Lily rebuilding her life downstairs like our home was something to distribute. That night, after he went to bed, I stayed at the kitchen table and stared at the counter my father once touched. Then I opened my laptop and sent a single email. Subject line: I need advice before I make a very expensive mistake. The reply came the next morning at 7:12. Short, direct. Can you talk at 10 o'clock? I stared at the message for a long moment before typing back. Yes. That was the first time I admitted to myself that this wasn't just a disagreement. It was something structural, something that, if I handled it wrong, wouldn't just hurt. It would cost me everything. Before that call, I got my second confirmation that I wasn't overreacting. Ryan had left his tablet on the kitchen counter. I wasn't trying to read it. I wasn't looking for anything. But it lit up while I was pouring coffee, and the message preview was enough. Marcus, once she adds you, Lily can take the downstairs and Eliza will either sulk or get over it. A second bubble appeared almost immediately. Ryan, exactly. I didn't pick it up. Didn't scroll. Didn't need to. Because that one exchange told me everything I hadn't wanted to believe. This wasn't negotiation. It was a plan. And I wasn't part of it. At 10 o'clock, I spoke to the lawyer. His name was Daniel Grant. Calm voice, no wasted words. He didn't react emotionally to anything I said, just asked questions. When did you buy the house? Is the deed solely in your name? Have you ever added him? Is your inheritance in a joint account? Any children? Any written communication about the property? I answered everything, carefully, honestly. Then there was a pause, and he said something that landed heavier than I expected. If you add him now, you could spend years regretting a 30-second signature. I let that sit. Then he added, quieter, you don't have a deed problem, Miss Bennett. You have a relationship problem. I didn't argue, because by then, I knew. By Friday, everything changed. Not loudly, not dramatically, just precisely. My paycheck was routed to a new account. My inheritance stayed separate, untouched, protected. Daniel drafted documentation. Not aggressive, not impulsive. Just ready. I didn't confront Ryan. I didn't accuse him of anything. I just stopped being accessible. That evening, he noticed. He walked into the home office holding his phone, brows slightly furrowed. Why is the checking balance lower than usual? I looked up from my laptop. I moved my paycheck. His expression didn't change at first. Then it did. You did what? I moved my paycheck. A beat. Why? Because I'm separating finances. He blinked, then laughed. Actually laughed. Okay, stop. What is this? He said, shaking his head. You're being dramatic. I didn't respond to that. I reached for the folder beside me and slid it across the desk. He hesitated before opening it. But when he saw the letterhead, when he saw the words, consultation, separate property, legal advisement, something in his posture shifted. Sharp, defensive. You called a lawyer? He asked. Over one conversation? I met his eyes. No, I said quietly. Over what that conversation meant. He flipped through the pages faster now. His breathing changed. You're unbelievable, he said. You're actually doing this? I already did. He scoffed. You're paranoid, Eliza. This is insane. I let him finish. Because I recognize the pattern now. Dismiss, minimize, redirect. I'm not punishing you, I said calmly. I'm protecting myself. That made him pause. Just for a second. Then the anger came back sharper. So that's it? He snapped. 8 years? And you're running to a lawyer because I asked to be treated like your partner? I held his gaze. No, I said. Because you made plans for my house like I wasn't in the room. Silence. Heavy. Uncomfortable. He didn't have an answer for that. So he reached for something else. You went through my messages? I didn't hesitate. I saw enough. That was the moment something cracked. Not between us. Inside him. Because now he knew. I wasn't confused anymore. I wasn't guessing. I knew. He stepped back, ran a hand through his hair. This is ridiculous, he muttered. You're blowing this way out of proportion. I didn't argue. Didn't raise my voice. Just sat there, steady. And that unsettled him more than anything. Because he was used to emotional reactions. To negotiation. To bending. Not this. Not silence with direction. That night, he left. Said he needed space. Didn't say where he was going. But his phone filled in the gaps. 1:14 a.m. You're really going to regret this. 1:22 a.m. I hope you enjoy your empty house. 1:40 a.m. We can fix this if you stop acting insane. I didn't reply. Because every message sounded the same now. Not concern. Not reflection. Just pressure. 4 days later, the first outside voice came. Lily. She called from a number I didn't recognize. I answered because I thought it might be work. Wow, she said immediately. You're really blowing up your relationship because you don't want to help family? I didn't even sit down. Lily, I said, calm, this is between me and Ryan. She laughed. It stopped being between you two when you started trying to leave him with nothing. I almost smiled at that. He has a job, I said, and you need to stay out of this. That didn't stop her. She launched into a speech about loyalty, about what real relationships look like, about how if I loved him, I wouldn't be holding a house over his head. Interesting. Coming from someone who wanted that house. For free. I hung up after 12 seconds, blocked the number. Then Marcus texted, "Hey, you're making this bigger than it is. Ryan just wants stability." I stared at the message for a long moment, then replied once. Stability for who? He didn't answer, because he already knew. Later that afternoon, Ryan came back. Calm, controlled, polished. The version of himself that worked in rooms full of people. Can we talk like adults? He asked. I stepped outside, closing the door behind me. We are talking like adults, I said. Through lawyers. He smiled. But there was no warmth in it. That's pathetic. Maybe, I said, still happening. That's when he shifted tactics. You know what people are saying, right? He asked lightly. That you're doing this because of the inheritance. I tilted my head slightly. I'm doing this, I said, because you told your friend Lily was moving in after I signed papers. That landed. I saw it. Just a flicker. Then gone. You went through my messages, he repeated. I saw enough. He stepped closer. You don't throw away 8 years over one private conversation. I met his eyes. No, I said. You throw it away when you start making decisions for someone else's life without them. That was the moment. The real one. Where whatever we had stopped pretending to be something it wasn't. He went quiet. And for the first time, he didn't try to convince me, because he realized I wasn't listening anymore. Ryan didn't calm down. He just changed strategy. The first shift was subtle, public. A few days after that last conversation, I started noticing things online. Nothing direct, nothing you could point at and say that's about me. Just vague posts, quotes about betrayal, about partners who weaponize money, about how love shouldn't feel like a contract. One photo of him sitting on Marcus's balcony, drink in hand, captioned, "Starting over takes courage." I stared at that one a little longer than I should have, because if you didn't know the story, it almost looked convincing, like he was the one who had been wronged. That was the point. The second shift wasn't subtle at all. It arrived in my inbox on a Tuesday morning. Subject line, house contributions, attachment, spreadsheet. I opened it slowly. And then I actually laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was absurd. $8,240. That's what he claimed I owed him. Line items included wall paint, patio furniture, holiday decorations, half a couch, a coffee machine he had taken with him. Some receipts were real. Most weren't. A few were screenshots from online carts, not even purchases. And one line, in all caps, sat near the bottom, like a joke that didn't know it was a joke. Emotional support, $1,500? I closed the file, forwarded it to Daniel. His reply came 15 minutes later. This is nonsense. Short, clean, accurate. But it told me something important. Ryan wasn't just trying to win. He was trying to create a version of reality where he had always been owed something. And he wasn't done. A few days later, my receptionist called me. I manage operations for a building supply company. Quiet job, structured, predictable, safe. Eliza, she said carefully, there's a man here saying he's your boyfriend, and he needs to talk to you about family property. I closed my eyes for a second. Of course he did. Ask him to leave, I said. If he doesn't, call security. There was a pause. He already left, she added, but he dropped something off. An envelope. Thick. My name written across the front in his handwriting. I didn't open it until I got home. 5 pages. Handwritten. It moved like a pendulum. 1 paragraph. He missed me. The next, I was punishing him. Then, he never meant to pressure me. Then, this was all my fault for overreacting. Marriage means trust. I was abandoning him over technicalities. Lily was temporary. I had control issues. He only pushed because he felt insecure. And then, buried halfway through page 3, if you would just put me on the deed like a real partner, none of this would be happening. I stopped reading there, folded the pages back up, and placed them in the folder. Because that sentence, that was the only honest one in the entire letter. 2 days later, things escalated. Fast. I was home, late afternoon, still in work clothes, standing in the kitchen, when I heard it. A truck. Loud, heavy. I walked to the front window, and there it was. A rented moving truck, parked in front of my house. My chest didn't tighten. It didn't spike. It just settled. Because suddenly, everything made sense. I stepped outside, closed the front door behind me, left the screen locked. Ryan was already out of the passenger seat. Lily jumped down from the truck like she was arriving somewhere she belonged. Ryan walked toward me, holding a printed list. Calm. Too calm. We're taking the downstairs furniture, he said, and the sectional. I blinked once. No. He held up the paper like it carried authority. Yay, these are shared assets, Eliza. I didn't even look at it. No. Lily rolled her eyes. Are you serious right now? She muttered. Ryan stepped closer. You can't just keep everything. I'm not keeping anything that's yours, I said evenly. That's not how this works, he snapped. I tilted my head slightly. Then maybe you shouldn't have brought a moving truck to a house that isn't yours. That landed. Hard. But Lily jumped in before he could respond. You're unbelievable, she said. After everything he's done for you? I almost asked what that was. But I didn't need to. Because this wasn't about logic. It was about entitlement. Ryan's voice sharpened. You lived here too, he said. You don't get to erase me. I met his eyes. You erased yourself, I said quietly. The moment you made plans for this place without me. That's when Lily snapped. Started talking over him. Calling me selfish, cold, controlling. And then, you think you're better than us because of your money. Because your dad helped you buy this place. That did it. Not anger. Not rage. Just clarity. I pulled my phone out. Leave, I said calmly, or I'm calling the police. Ryan laughed. A short, sharp sound. Go ahead, he said. I'd love to hear how you explain stealing from your partner. So I did, I called. And then I waited. No yelling. No escalation. Just stillness. When the officers arrived, everything shifted. Not dramatically. Just reality settling into place. I showed them the deed. The documentation. The notice from Daniel. The messages. The footage from the camera above the garage. Ryan's confidence cracked first. Then Lily's. Because suddenly, this wasn't a conversation. It was evidence. The officers didn't solve anything. They didn't need to. They just made one thing very clear. No one was taking anything out of that house. Not that day. Ryan stood in the driveway, jaw tight. Lily paced like something had been taken from her. As they got back into the truck, Ryan looked at me. You're going to lose a lot more than this house, he said. I didn't answer. Because I already had. Just not what he thought. That night, my mother called. Apparently, Ryan had reached out to her. Told her I was having some kind of breakdown. That grief had made me unstable. I listened quietly. Then asked, what did you say? She didn't hesitate. I told him your father didn't raise you to give things away under pressure. I smiled. Softly. Because that sounded exactly like him. For the first time in weeks, I slept. Really slept. And in the morning, the house felt quiet again. Not empty. Not lonely. Just mine. 2 months later, we sat across from each other in a beige office that smelled like burnt coffee and printer toner. Mediation. Final step. Ryan arrived 10 minutes early. I noticed that. Because he used to be late to everything that mattered. But not this. Not when there was still something left to take. He looked different. Softer. Cream sweater. Clean lines. Hair pulled back just enough to look effortless. If I hadn't lived with him, if I hadn't read every message, every letter, every version of him, it might have worked. That version of him. The one built for sympathy. He glanced at me when I walked in. Held eye contact for half a second longer than necessary. Like he was trying to find something still there. I didn't look away. But I didn't give him anything either. Because by then, there was nothing left to give. His lawyer started first. Measured voice, controlled tone. They wanted half the equity in the house. A portion of my inheritance. Reimbursement for shared investments. Temporary support. Legal fees. It sounded confident. Structured. Almost convincing. Until Daniel spoke. He didn't raise his voice. Didn't dramatize anything. He just laid it out. Piece by piece. The deed, dated 2 years before I even met Ryan. The mortgage, paid entirely from my account. The inheritance, never once mixed into shared funds. The spreadsheet, full of inconsistencies, missing receipts, fabricated entries. The handwritten letter. The office envelope. The attempted removal of property. The police report. And then, he slid one final document across the table. A printed message. Ryan's message. To Marcus, once she adds me, Lily can take the downstairs and Eliza will either sulk or get over it. Silence. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just heavy. The mediator read it once. Then again. Slower. Ryan didn't look at me. Didn't speak. His lawyer leaned toward him, whispering something low and urgent. For the first time since this started, Ryan didn't look angry. He looked exposed. The version of him he had been performing. collapse quietly. The final agreement came faster than I expected. Not because he wanted it, because he didn't have anything left to argue with. He received a small equalization payment from the joint account, just over $4,000. He kept his car, took what was clearly his: clothes, personal items, a few pieces of furniture he had paid for. That was it. No part of the house, no part of the inheritance, no support, no leverage, no access. My legal fees came out to just under $9,000. Expensive, but still cheaper than signing away something that would have taken years to get back, if I ever could. When it ended, Ryan didn't look at me, not once. He stood, gathered his things, and walked out of the room like someone who had just realized, too late, that the outcome had been decided long before he showed up. 3 weeks later, I saw him again. Not in person. In the background of a photo Marcus posted online. Rooftop bar, city lights, drink in hand, smile just a little too wide, performing again. I wondered briefly if it still worked, if people still believed him. Then I stopped wondering, because it didn't matter. At home, things changed, quietly. I repainted the downstairs room, got rid of the decorative pieces Ryan had insisted on. Words like together, home, forever written in fake script across wooden signs. Replaced them with something real, a solid oak desk, shelves, space, not something shared, something chosen. Work got better too. I was promoted to regional operations lead. Nothing dramatic, just steady. A raise, more responsibility, more control over my time. I started running again in the mornings, cooking more, sleeping through the night without waiting for the sound of a door opening or a conversation I didn't want to have. Peace wasn't loud, but it was consistent. My mother came by one Sunday, walked through the house slowly, like she was checking for damage. Then she stopped in the kitchen, ran her hand across the counter, the same way my father had, and said quietly, "He would have been proud of you." That one stayed with me, because the truth was, this was never really about the house, or the money, or even Ryan. It was about something harder to see at the beginning, something easier to ignore. Whether love meant losing your ability to say no, whether being in a relationship meant handing over control just to prove you were committed, whether boundaries were allowed to exist inside something that called itself partnership. Ryan didn't want reassurance. He wanted access, not conversation. Permission, the kind he had already given himself. And the moment I understood that, everything became simple. Not easy, not painless, but simple. If someone tells you that love means giving them your house, your money, your decisions, believe them. Because they're not asking. They're showing you exactly what they plan to take. And if the only way your relationship survives is by punishing your boundaries, then it was never built on respect. It was built on access. And access isn't love. It's entitlement. The house is still mine. The same kitchen. The same quiet street. The same promise my father made with $20,000 in a simple sentence. Keep one thing in your life that no one can take from you. I finally understood what he meant. And by not signing that paper, I didn't just protect a house. I protected the rest of my life.